So I figured since it's dark and moody and rainy out today, I would finally cover a subject that maybe some of you don't want to hear about, but needs to be addressed no matter what, and that is the dark side of Japan. Last year we had over 33,000 suicides in this country, and that is pretty much like a small town committing suicide. So that's not a good thing. It's actually so bad, in fact, that in the years past, one director actually made a movie which some of you may have seen called Suicide Club, and I think in some countries it was called Suicide Circle. And if you haven't seen that movie, I suggest you rent it. It's really good. And that movie was actually made by that director to try and bring the epidemic of suicide in Japan to the government's attention. I don't know if it helped much, but it's pretty bad when you have to make a movie about your country's problem with suicide. That's definitely not a good situation. A lot of suicides come to fruition due to the fact that there is a lack of mental health care in Japan. Hearing about a psychologist is almost unheard of. You have probably little to none in Osaka and maybe only a few in Tokyo. I'm talking like maybe a handful. And even those are mostly gaijin psychologists who have made a business for themselves. There are psychiatrists, but if you know the difference, you know that a psychiatrist only deals in the medicine, and a psychologist actually deals in actually counseling the person verbally. You know, medicine can only help so much. Most of the time, people actually need to be talked to about what their problem is, what their pain is, or what they're suffering through. And Japan just doesn't really have any kind of facility for that. And it's actually a big problem. Also, there's the issue of kind of a cultural code in which you do not bring your problems to work or pretty much any kind of organization with friends. They try to keep the mood upbeat all the time, and that's good. You know, that's healthy to do. But there are some times where people need to cry. They need to break down. They need to cry on someone's shoulder, okay? They need someone who will listen to them and someone they can just vent their problems to. And Japan kind of really lacks such an amenity. What happens is at work, you're always told to never ever bring your anger or your sadness to work, pretty much. And that's understandable to a point. I mean, you know, if you've just experienced a funeral, don't come to work the next day. You're going to be depressed out of your head, okay? But people suffering from depression or suffering from a tragedy, if they come to work and try to talk to it with fellow workers, they're shut down most times. Most times they're going to be shut down, or most times they're going to be told by peers, you know, maybe this isn't the best place to talk about it, you know, or if they go out, sometimes, a lot of times after work, they have outings where they go out and drink, and if someone gets a little bit drunk and starts to get emotional, you know, they'll probably say to him, ooh, you know, you probably had a little bit too much to drink, let's get you a taxi and send you on home. And that's pretty common. And no one really gets to express how badly they feel about some of the tragedy they face. And tragedy can be anything. It can come in many different forms. It's not necessarily someone always dying or somebody leaving you or a divorce or a breakup. It can be the fact that you're in a redundant job that never seems to end. Or maybe you're not taking on the career that you want. And in Japan, people lock into careers. They start something right out of college or right out of high school, and you're locked into that career. It's not quite like Western countries where a career change can happen at 40 and people are accepting. The older you get in Japan, the harder it is to land a job. Not necessarily true for gaijin, but definitely true for the Japanese. I have some friends who are 40 plus, and I've heard from them when they became unemployed during the recession that we're having right now, that they felt like their life was over because no one would want to hire them at this age. And kind of a depressing thing to hear, unfortunately. One other story I have to tell you about, that this is one thing that really depressed me when I first came to this country. I couldn't believe it. I worked at an Ikawa when I first came here, and that means an English conversation school, and it's pretty much like a McDonald's for teaching English. You have your, you know, set-up teachers. They have to wear almost like a uniform of a suit. They come to work, they sit down, and pretty much we take in the masses and we teach one by one English classes. And I had some of my students come in and tell me when I asked them, why do you want to study English, their reason was they had gone to the doctor for depression or for sadness or for a troubling time that they had been going through, and they wondered what the doctor would prescribe. And the doctor said, well, guess what? Not a lot of people are going to listen to you in Japan about your problem. But gaijin talk to each other all the time about emotional problems. So what I suggest you do is sign up for English classes and cry on the shoulder of a gaijin you don't know. I mean, that's pretty much what he told them to do. I mean, I'm not saying any specific doctor, but I've had more than one student come to me and tell me that before, that what their doctor prescribed to them was to come to an Kaiwa English class and cry on the shoulder of a gaijin, because that's what gaijin do. We are there for each other, we listen to each other's problems, and we don't mind if, someone's been going through a hard time. We'll try to be there for them. I'm glad we have, that character to us. I'm glad we have that in our countries. But is that a healthy situation? No. Do I have any kind of license to deal with anybody's problems? No. Do I have any kind of training? No. I'm there to teach English. I'm an educator, not a psychologist. So, I try my best to help people like that, but I'm not any help at all, because it just wasn't my qualification. It wasn't what I was there for. All I could do was feel empathy and sympathy for these people. Really depressing situation. Okay, our last issue is domestic abuse and child pornography. I talked about how it's not a good thing to bring anger to the workplace. And there's also a big problem with being overworked in Japan. People have been so overworked before in Japan that they have died. About 1.5 years ago, a man working for Toyota, which we all know Toyota, he actually got worked to death by Toyota. And his wife had to actually sue the company to get any kind of money out of them. They worked him something like 12 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, until his heart finally gave out. The guy was a healthy, young, fit guy, and he was actually worked to death. His heart actually gave out from not getting enough sleep. So problems exist with being overworked, and when people are overworked, they tend to become more aggressive, more frustrated, tired, full of anxiety, and this is mostly the salarymen I'm talking about. And then they come home, and of course we have the problem of referred anger. And referred anger is taken out sometimes on the wife, on the children. Recently my friend, he works as an ALT, and I'm not going to say where, but he had a student who one day didn't come into school. And when he asked about why she wasn't there, the teachers told him that her father had come home that night and in a rage had taken a kitchen knife and murdered every single person in the family. And it was all swept under the rug. No one really did anything about it. Even the neighbors next door heard screaming and said, yeah, we figured something was wrong, but we didn't want to get involved. So there's a big problem with people not helping each other out with domestic abuse or social problems or mental problems. Bad. Last one, child pornography. It's only been about 2 years now that child pornography has actually been illegal in Japan. Yeah. How about that? And still today, there are magazines, DVDs, all different types of stuff that feature little kids, and I'm talking very young, maybe kindergarten to junior high school age, in just bikinis and bathing suits. And that is totally fine for you to buy at the store. You can pretty much get that at any pornography store here in Japan. And it's pretty sickening. So they've still got a huge issue, and a lot of their social and mental health issues are treated as though they were being treated in America or other Western countries about, I would say, 70 years ago. Okay? Which means they're pretty much swept under the rug, ignored, or people are just told to ganbatte or gaman suru, which means just try hard or push through it, and that doesn't help at all. So, there you go. That is the dark side of Japan. Begin the flaming now.